Now for our last item, Greece wants its marbles back.
Yes, they've lost their marbles. They lost their marbles in the early 19th century. It's the Elgin Marbles. Lord Elgin claims, a British aristocrat, the claim from the British is that Lord Elgin bought these sculptures that were on the Parthenon hill in Athens legally from the Ottoman government or the Ottoman authorities at the time. And then they were taken between, I think, in like 1804 and 1812, taken to the UK and have been on display in the British Museum since 1817. But now, with Brexit just being the constant source of twists and turns in politics, this is probably the weirdest twist and turn of the whole thing, is that Greece has now, with the support of Italy, inserted into the draft mandate for the EU negotiating team that cultural artifacts and historical things like that need to be protected and repatriated. And Italy and Greece say, oh no, this is just to prevent the illegal trading of cultural artifacts. That huge black market across Europe. I mean, it's they just can't help themselves.
It's pretty big.
It's big in Egypt and things like that, where it's actually a significant chunk of the informal economy, but analysts across the board consider that this is quite a weird shot across the bow deliberately about the Elgin Marbles, trying to, I think, touch the UK on their studio.
Yeah. I think it's well designed to play up to the gallery in the UK itself. It's university circuit, particularly led by SOAS, the former sort of attempt by the UK to build a university for the colonies, for people of the colonies to come in and learn. There's been a lot of push on the left to say that you need to give all this stuff back. This is loot and plunder. I think there's an important counter, and so that's the side that's super disappointed by Brexit and that is looking for grievance, and so Europe is giving them grievance. I think it's good to note, my thinking on this was informed quite substantially by, I think, the world's leading philosopher of race, Kwame Anthony Appiah, who wrote a book called Cosmopolitanism, Ethics in a World of Strangers, in which he spends quite a substantial portion of it sort of dwelling on cultural artifacts that aren't in the country of their origins, of their production. And the case that he makes, I mean, I can't get into all of it because the interesting thing about those artifacts is that they find themselves at the intersection of so much that matters politically and that divides political discourse at the moment. But one of the things to note is that the worst thing that can happen in a way, let's say the worst thing that can happen with a cultural artifact of great significance is that it's destroyed.
Yes.
The second worst thing that happens is that it's plundered and then kept in private and then traded around in a black market, so that
only the super rich can enjoy it.
Only the super rich can enjoy it, and it's denied access to academics who place it in a larger context and also figure out from it things that inform the larger
things about
context.
the culture and society comes out.
And so the best thing that you can have really is for it to be preserved and for it to be viewed by lumpen proletarians like us, who hardly know much from much else, but learn a little bit from these awesome experiences. And I can remember seeing the Elgin Marbles both in the UK, and I can remember going to the Acropolis in Athens. And there's a hell of a lot that was left on top of the Acropolis. The Parthenon is complete. I think it's the Nike tribute that's on the Acropolis where the marbles that were taken are from. There's a whole museum that's been established just under the Acropolis, facing up to it, of various artifacts that were displaced. Here's an interesting thing about that museum. It's very new. Until very recently, Greece didn't have the money to be able to protect its stuff.
The EU built it, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. So for countries, so Appiah makes the case, firstly, that from a pragmatic point of view, for rich countries to hold on to these things and protect them is really has one advantage, which is that they have great tourist facilities and attractions already. There are already a lot of people coming through, so they've got good access. They also have good access for the people that live around those hubs, and they've got the money to preserve them, which is, it's quite expensive, both preserving them chemically and in terms of security from other people. And then the other thing is the slightly... And look, just by the way, like if you go to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, they've got a statue, they've got like a small pyramid inside there and a whole bunch of tombs from Egypt. You know why? Because they gave Egypt like billions of dollars to try and help them stop the pyramids from being looted. They've been looted for the last 10,000 years. The few sand dunes go away, dudes go in, take the stuff. So like, we're going to help you with this, that, and that, some infrastructure projects, whatever. And in exchange, amongst other things, what we'd like is a small bit of a pyramid. And it's a beautiful thing to behold. And they paid for it to come over. They protected. There it sits by the Whistlers, by the Picassos, by the Durers. It's a really multicultural experience. And this is, I think, the key of Appiah's point. The Elgin Marbles today don't belong to Egypt. It's very hard to see how they're to Greece. It is a civilizational achievement.
Yes.
The civilization of the universal, I think, is a phrase that he uses, is a very important thing for liberals to defend. Cosmopolitanism is a very important thing for liberals to defend. We are all citizens of the world. You can be a citizen of the world and a citizen of a country and be a patriot too, as Appiah's father was. He nearly died for Ghana and Nkrumah's right-hand man. At the same time, as a cosmopolitan, it's his anecdote. We can all have our own. But the important point is that Isaac Newton discovered mathematical equations that describe the fabric of the universe better than anyone else had done before and better than anyone else has done since when it comes to the kind of education level that most people get in terms of physics. Isaac Newton's theory of gravity is not the ownership. It's not the intellectual property of the UK. It is a universal bit of IP, if you think of it as property at all. It's something that we can all tap into and that informs the building of this table and the roads from China to Vietnam and from Chile to Argentina. Likewise, the Elgin Marbles tell us something about humanity itself. They come from 2,000 years ago. To connect ancient Greece to the modern state of Greece,
it's a very different place.
Yes.
Is I think literally irresponsible. And I think that the only way to really make the case that modern Greece owns the Elgin Marbles, given the particular teleology of its transfer, etiology of its transfer, is to basically make the race nationalist claim that people of Greek blood have a particular connection to Greek artifacts and therefore should have the closest access to them. And it's exactly that blood value that I think liberals need to check against, whether it's about property rights fundamentally, whether it's about cultural artifacts, and whether I as a South African can connect as closely to an Egyptian or Greek statue or a Japanese haiku as you or the next guy or the next woman. And so I think this really does matter, and I think it's pernicious and cynical of the Greeks to try and play up the divisions in the UK.
Come on.
One thing that I agree with everything you said.
Thank you.
But one thing that I just wanted to a less philosophical level is, where do you draw the line? I mean, are the Welsh going to ask for Stonehenge's rocks back? You know, when does a piece of history become a piece of history? Will Cairo ask for the Parisian obelisk back? Where do you draw the line saying...
The Statue of Liberty. France should just say,
yes.
look, by the way, we gave this to you at a time when our government was a bit corrupt. It really belongs to us. We built it. We sent it to you. Can we have it back?
So actually the fact...
It might be an American icon, but who cares?
But I think the Elgin Marbles...
Our blood.
...have been in the British Museum for 200 years.
Well protected and with great access. It's not hard to get into the British Museum. It's one of the cheapest, most accessible...
And part of London culture. So the question then becomes, how far back do you take the idea of theft? Because then every single thing, every idea, every concept, every building block, every piece of art will at some point then go back to the point to the place where it was created but irrelevant, instead of the place where it was accepted as culturally.
Well, it wasn't necessarily irrelevant. It's just that the state, the ability of people to protect their stuff fell apart.
I think the winning move here for the UK is going to be they'll say, okay, we'll give you back the Elgin Marbles, but we're going to reignite our claim to the French throne.
or just you can have this half and you can have this half. Where's the hammers?